We've got our 5-time NASCAR Sprint Cup Series defending champion, Jimmie Johnson. He drives the number 48 Lowe's Chevrolet for Hendrick Motorsports. He's got 1 victory here at Talladega, 4 top 5s, 8 top 10s, and a pole. And Jimmie, I know early on in your career this was a tough track for you. Still, I'm sure it's a very tough track, but you have had a good bit of success of late. Talk about the challenges and just the nuances of racing here at Talladega Superspeedway.
Yeah, for me, excuse me, for me, trying to get my arms around the plate racing years ago, I made some mistakes here and certainly had to find my way, and was in position to win a few and got one. I don't even know what year it was now, but with the old style car, and then the new style car, it was a new set of challenges, and then certainly we're all aware of the push drafting and what's developed lately. So plate racing, the technology has stayed pretty much the same, but the way we go about it as drivers continues to change, and I'm excited to give it another shot. Daytona came to an end way too soon for us, and we were part of that big wreck, and looking forward to a good race. I really don't know what to think from a strategy standpoint, from a race standpoint. I mean, you just kind of go. If you choose to ride, there's a good chance you'll be lapped before long, the way that the push draft works. And staying up front and out of trouble with the push draft seems to really be the best place. So we're looking forward to a few laps of practice today if the weather holds out. But outside of that, we're pretty much locked and loaded and know what we need to do, and looking forward to the race.
Thank you, Jimmie. We'll take questions now for Jimmie Johnson, if you have one. We'll start right back here with George. State your name and who you're with, and then we'll get to some more. Go ahead.
Yeah, George Diaz with the Orlando Sentinel. Jimmie, can you talk about the philosophical? I don't know if it's a problem or not, but how you deal with the competitive issues that you end up with the love bug racing, whatever we call it, the tandem racing. You end up on radio frequencies. You end up partnering with guys who are basically trying to beat you to the finish line.
Yeah, it's a totally different dynamic for us, and we are all adjusting as we can, and filling our radios full of other frequencies, trying to talk to guys in the garage area, see if someone will work with you. At the end of the day, I think a lot of it just kind of takes care of itself, because we all are aware of the fact that we need a partner, and it really boils down to a restart and what lane you're in. In most cases, the guy you're pushing, if you don't come to pit road, you're going to be in separate lanes, and you might have built some type of rapport with the driver, and now you're lining up in different spots. So it is really tough to stick together, and you can try and do some things maybe on restarts to get down in front of someone you want to work with, but in general, we all know the game. We all know that it will be easier here than it was at Daytona, and from the minute practice opens up till the checkered falls, we'll be focused on pushing each other around the track. So we'll just work with it and see how we can do a better job as a team, and make sure that we missed a big wreck and try to win this thing.
Let's go to Jeff Owens, and then we'll go over to Nate Ryan. Go ahead, Jeff.
Jimmie, you're off to a pretty good start in the points. You're in good position there, but we've had 6 different winners so far, and you haven't won a race yet. So I guess everybody's going to start asking eventually, is there something wrong? And do you worry about that?
No, I feel like we've been knocking on the door. We've had, I'd say, 3 real opportunities to win. Made some mistakes. I guess I'm responsible for 2 of the mistakes. One at Martinsville, and then the other at California. I felt like, looking back, I could have done things a little differently to keep Kevin behind me coming to the finish at California. But it didn't happen. We lost those races. So I've always believed in the fact that if you're knocking on the door by running in the top 5, you're going to have your fair share of wins. And we've been running well. Top 10s maybe a little more than we want. We need to be a little bit better in focusing on the top 5s and running in the top 5 more regularly throughout the course of a race, instead of just showing up there at the end. And we'll be in victory lane. So I'm sure the question will be asked, and it's probably already swirling a little bit, but we're only 6 races into the season, and I took that big trophy home at the end of last year, so I'm not too concerned, and we'll just keep racing. It's tough to win in the sport. As you mentioned, there's 6 different winners. We preach it all the time, and especially myself, how difficult it is to win races and championships. I don't know if people want to believe me, especially when we're on our roll, and had our runs going. So it is very, very tough to do, and this year is proof of that to even a further extent.
Let's go to Nate Ryan. Go ahead, Nate. Raise your hand, Nate.
Nate Ryan, USA Today. The two-car draft kind of started here a few years ago, but it was never as prevalent as it was at Daytona in February. And now, after Daytona, everybody's saying that this race is going to look a lot like that one. Is that just because everybody figured out the two-car draft really well during the course of Speed Weeks, and now that's going to transfer here? Because it just didn't seem like in the past there'd been that much of it going on here versus Daytona. Yeah,
I think there's two factors to it. One, the car and the evolution of the cooling system and trying to understand that aspect of it. Going into the Daytona 500, all the teams were smarter. Although there were some changes made, we were smarter and did a better job. But I think one of the biggest, the largest of the two would be that the drivers have learned how to work this better. And when we were here last fall, we all knew it was possible, but we felt like we had a lap and a half to push. And then you'd get so far ahead, and if you at that point when you'd have to break up, the pack would gobble you up and run you over. So we saw some guys trying to work on the exchanges, and when we left here, it was pretty obvious that if you focused on the exchange and kept changing positions, over time you could march away from the field. And so I just still feel that a lot of people did their homework following the fall race here, and when we went to Daytona, every team, every driver was geared up and ready. So it's been an evolution of things, but I know that with Jeff and I at the end of the race in the fall last year, we felt like we could make a move to get to the front, then we'd have to defend and try to wait until a lap and a half, two to go. Then it would be be time to push, and you'd be willing to overheat your engine at that point and have a problem. So it's just been ever changing, and you guys have all seen it as well.
This year you'll expect to see cars getting lapped because the two-car trains will never get caught out of pack.
Yeah, I just don't see how the drivers have all worked very hard on the exchanges. We're only losing, a second a lap on an exchange, and you're 2 seconds a lap faster pushing than you are than the pack. So the time just adds up, and if you don't get linked up, and we have a long, caution-free period, and you can get lapped in a hurry.
Let's go here to Brian, and then we'll go to Bob Pockers.
Brian Nelson, Motor Racing Network, Jimmie over here. How do you describe, with so little or so much outside of your control that can happen in a bad way here to you, how do you describe the tension, the anxiety that goes into racing here at Talladega, knowing that you're just trying to avoid a big one?
Over the years I've realized that there's very little that I can control until the race starts. And it's easier said than done, but I've now, after 10 years of being in the sport, realized how to kind of shut it off and just enjoy myself Friday, Saturday, and then Sunday when you get in the car, then you start worrying about things. You can think through plans really far, work things out with other drivers and teams, but as we all know, when you hit the track, things just happen, and you can plan as much as you want, but it just doesn't turn out that way. So I guess over time I've learned to really disconnect and kind of enjoy just being at the track, enjoy the experience, and worry about when it's time during the race. I know I used to over worry a lot, and especially when I come back in the fall for the way we've been the last 5 years fighting for the championship. That statement of it being easier said than done is very true then, because you're worried about everything, and you know that the race is coming, you can't get around it, and you need to finish the race well to have a shot at the championship.
Let's go Bob Pockers.
Bob Pockers, Scene Daily. Jeff Gordon had said that he was a little frustrated with their 1.5-mile program and need to get better. I was curious how you thought you guys are on the 1.5-mile tracks, and how much advice can you give him and his team, and how much is it just they got to figure it out?
Yeah, if we look back through the chase last year and the start of this year, I would say that as a company we've been playing catch up a little bit on the mile and a halves. I have to thank everybody at Hendrick Motorsports for all their hard work and how much has gone into it. And at times we feel like we've made some good gains, and then there are other times we don't. We have cars that run strong in a race, and then some cars that don't. Jeff has been on that the side that doesn't run well in the mile and a half here lately. I know that he and his team are frustrated, but as a group, we're all kind of working in different areas trying to find the speed that we need. And we have a lot of new components this year with the new aero balance and nose on the cars, along with some stuff that we have developed internally for our chassis and our setups. So there's a lot of moving pieces right now, and I think as a group we're working very well together, and we'll get there. I hate that Jeff is in the position he is in the points, and we need to stop the bleeding there and get him back rolling. And he does have a win, which is great, but we want all 4 Hendrick cars in the chase, and need to get those guys collecting a lot of points, especially on the mile and a halfs, with how important it is for with how many races we have.
Let's go back here to Jeff. Another one. Go ahead.
Jimmie, last year it came down to you and Denny and Kevin in a pretty close race. And this year, Denny's gotten off to a slow start. He's struggled a little bit, but Kevin is not. Kevin's strong, won 2 races, and seems to be right where he was last year. Would you say he's probably your biggest worry right now from what you've seen from him as far as the championship's concerned?
Yeah, I would also add the 99 car, and even the 17 car. I mean, the Roush group has made huge gains, and I said at the end of last year it was kind of obvious with how Carl was running, but that's a very mature team. They went through a tough period of time and stuck together, and we didn't hear about he and Bob Osborne tearing each other apart and that team dismantling itself. I mean, they went down the rough road and came through it and are winning races and running well. So, and all the Roush cars are. You look at the Texas race last weekend, and all the Roush-affiliated cars pretty much took up the top 6 or 8 spots, on the racetrack. So they've figured something out. I think that there's a lot of racing left between now and when the chase starts, and we have time to get our stuff right. But Kevin is doing a great job, and I have to say that Denny doesn't have some of the results, but he's been running well, and then has had some crazy things happen. I remember him being in front of me in a few of the races where he had DNFs and bad finishes. So I'm sure they don't want to be in the hole that they're in, but I think they're running better than where it shows.
Any other questions for Jimmie? Jimmie, thanks for coming in. Good luck this weekend.
Thank you.